In the year 2557, 50 years into humanity's contentious membership in the Galactic Council, the Frontier Research Station, Aurora 7, hung in delicate orbit around Cathar Prime. From above, the planet resembled an emerald marble veined with sapphire waterways and wisps of silver cloud. Its beauty belied the savage reality beneath, a world where every evolved organism possessed at least 3 different ways to kill. Dr. Serena Vale pressed her palm against the viewport, watching the world spin below. Behind the tranquil facade of her expression, her mind calculated survival probabilities and cataloged the dozens of species she'd documented in her 3 years at the station. Her hair, pulled back in a practical knot, caught the artificial light as she turned to address the man who had just entered the observation deck. "Lieutenant Patel, I didn't expect to see you until the security briefing." Lieutenant Arun Patel's uniform bore the crisp precision of a career military man, though his eyes carried the wariness of someone who had seen too many frontier emergencies. "The briefing's been moved up," he said, maintaining a formal distance. "We've detected unusual activity in the Cathvar territories. Command wants contingency plans updated." Serena's shoulders tensed involuntarily at the mention of the Cathvar, apex predators, not just of their homeworld, but of nearly a third of the known galaxy. Bipedal reptilians with natural armor plating and sensory capabilities that outmatched the most advanced military tech. They were universally feared and politically untouchable. Even the Zelians, with their vast neural networks and predictive capabilities, avoided Cathvar space. "Activity near our sector?" she asked, already calculating how this might impact her upcoming expedition. "Nothing direct, but their scout ships have been pushing boundaries lately." Patel's expression softened slightly. "Dr. Vale, I know that look. Whatever you're planning, remember that prodding monsters rarely ends well for the one holding the stick." Serena smiled thinly. "I'm a xenobiologist. Lieutenant, monsters are simply species we haven't properly understood yet." "Tell that to the Aldebaran colony." "Oh wait, you can't. The Cathvar left no survivors." The conversation might have continued its familiar path of caution versus curiosity had the station's alarm not chosen that moment to blare, bathing the observation deck in pulsing red light. "Emergency protocol activated," the station AI announced with practiced calm. "Unknown vessel detected on collision trajectory with Cathar surface. Impact in the western quadrant in 3 minutes. 17 seconds. Patel was already moving toward the command center, his hand instinctively checking his sidearm. "Serena, stay put until we assess." But Serena was already pulling up ship identification data on her comm panel. Her breath caught when the registry flashed on screen. "It's a Cathvar scout ship, and there are life signs." The lieutenant froze. "All the more reason to let nature take its course. The jungle will finish what the crash started. Or we could prevent an interstellar incident by attempting a rescue," Serena countered, already downloading coordinates to her personal device. "If they die when we could have helped? And if they survive to report human interference in Cathvar affairs? The Council would have our heads, literally, in some member species cases." The impact alert cut through their argument. On the main screen, they watched as the small craft plummeted through Cathar's atmosphere, trailing fire before disappearing into the dense canopy. "Biotelemetry still registering one life form," the AI reported, "diminishing vital signs." Serena made her decision. "I'm taking a shuttle. Protocol states we must attempt rescue for any sentient in distress." "Protocol has exceptions for hostile species," Patel called after her as she strode toward the lift. "Then don't come," she replied without looking back. "But I'll need Dr. Cho and a medical kit." 20 minutes later, Serena was piloting a compact shuttle toward the crash site, accompanied by a reluctant Dr. Myra Cho. The medical officer's dark eyes reflected both professional concern and personal apprehension. "I've never treated a Cathvar," Cho admitted, organizing emergency supplies. Their physiology is classified beyond my clearance. We'll improvise, Serena replied, guiding the craft through a gap in the canopy. Focus on the universal constants, stopping blood loss, maintaining respiration, preventing shock. Assuming they don't kill us on sight. Kathvar are notorious for attacking medical personnel first in battle scenarios. This isn't a battle, Serena said, though her hands trembled slightly as she initiated landing procedures. It's a rescue. The shuttle settled in a small clearing 50 meters from the crash site. As the hatch opened, Cathar's atmosphere rushed in, heavy with moisture and the complex organic compounds that made the air smell simultaneously sweet and putrid. Serena activated her environmental suit's filtration system before stepping onto the spongy ground cover. Stay alert, she instructed, scanning the immediate area. The crash will have disturbed local predators. They moved cautiously through the underbrush, following the path of destruction left by the Cathvar vessel. Twisted metal fragments had sheared through massive tree trunks, and the acidic mist that perpetually hung in the lower canopy had already begun corroding the exposed hull sections. Life signs still registering, Cho reported, checking her scanner, but fading rapidly. They found the main body of the craft half buried in muddy soil, its sleek design now a crumpled mass of dark metal. Serena approached cautiously, keenly aware of stories about Cathvar ships being booby-trapped against scavengers. "Hello," she called out, using the universal greeting protocol. "We're from Research Station Aurora 7. We've come to offer assistance." No response came from the wreckage, but her scanner pinpointed the life sign beneath a section of collapsed hull. Working together, Serena and Cho used emergency hydraulic tools to lift the debris, enough to reveal what lay beneath. The Cathvar warrior was massive, over 2 meters of corded muscle beneath slate-gray scales. One arm ended in a mangled mess, where it had apparently been used to brace against impact. Iridescent blood pooled beneath the prone form, its metallic scent sharp even through their filtration systems. Serena stood paralyzed for a crucial moment, facing the living embodiment of humanity's most feared galactic neighbor. The Cathvar's eyes were closed, its breathing labored, but even unconscious. It radiated lethal potential. Every instinct screamed at her to retreat. Instead, she knelt beside the fallen predator. Multiple fractures, she noted clinically, scanning the massive form. Internal bleeding. We need to stabilize before transport. Cho hesitated only briefly before professional training overtook fear. Applying universal coagulant to the worst bleeding points. Can't guarantee compatibility. It's our best option, Serena affirmed, preparing a spinal stabilization field. On my count, we'll secure and lift. As they worked, a distant roar echoed through the jungle, followed by the sound of massive bodies moving through undergrowth. Local apex predators, Serena identified, working faster. Drawn by the blood. We won't make it to the shuttle if they arrive, Cho warned, eyes darting toward the sounds. Then we work faster. With desperate efficiency, they secured the Cathvar to a hovering stretcher. As they began moving toward the shuttle, the warrior's eyes snapped open, vertical pupils contracting sharply in the filtered sunlight. A low, rumbling growl emanated from its chest. Serena froze, acutely aware that even injured, the Cathvar could likely kill them both before they could react. Instead of attacking, however, it focused on Serena with unnerving intensity. Human, it rasped in heavily accented standard. Why? You're injured, Serena replied simply. We're helping. The Cathvar's eyes narrowed, then closed again as unconsciousness reclaimed it. They resumed their hurried journey to the shuttle, the sounds of pursuing predators growing closer. They barely made it, securing the stretcher in the medical bay seconds before massive shapes emerged from the jungle. The shuttle lifted off as clawed appendages scraped against the hull, searching for purchase. Setting course for Aurora 7, Serena announced, hands flying over the controls. Dr. Cho, do whatever you can to keep our patient stable. Patient, Cho repeated with a nervous laugh. That's one way to describe the deadliest sentient in the quadrant. The return journey passed in tense silence, broken only by the beeping of medical monitors and Cho's occasional updates. By the time they docked with the station, a welcoming committee had assembled. Lieutenant Patel at the forefront, flanked by security officers with weapons drawn. "Dr. Vale," he said tersely as the shuttle door opened. "You are ordered to step aside and allow security to neutralize the threat you've brought aboard." Serena positioned herself between the armed officers and the medical stretcher. "This isn't a threat, Lieutenant. It's an injured sentient under my protection as chief xenobiologist of this station." "It's a Kathvar warrior," Patel countered, "and its presence here violates at least 7 council directives. Letting it die would violate our most basic directive," Serena replied evenly. "Or have we abandoned the principles that earned humanity its council seat?" Their standoff might have escalated further had Station Director Eliana Reyes not arrived, her diminutive stature belying her absolute authority over Aurora 7. "Both of you, stand down," she ordered. "Dr. Vale, explain yourself." Serena quickly outlined the rescue, emphasizing the diplomatic implications of either action or inaction. Director Reyes listened impassively before turning to Lieutenant Patel. "Secure the medical bay, but no aggressive action against the Kathvar. Dr. Cho, you are authorized to provide life-saving treatment only." Her gaze returned to Serena. "And you will personally answer to the Council for this decision." "Understood, Director," Serena acknowledged, relief mingling with apprehension as she helped guide the stretcher toward medical. Word of the Kathvar's presence spread through the station with predictable speed. Within hours, communications from the Galactic Council began flooding in, demands for explanation, thinly veiled threats, and eventually, a quarantine order preventing any ships from approaching or departing Aurora 7. In the medical bay, Serena observed as Dr. Cho worked tirelessly to stabilize their unprecedented patient. The Kathvar, identified from ship records as Karox, a scout commander, remained unconscious, connected to modified life support systems. "His physiology is remarkable," Cho noted, reviewing scan results. "Triple redundant organs, accelerated healing factors, neural pathways unlike anything in our databases." "Will he survive?" Serena asked, studying the warrior's features, less monstrous now under the clinical lights, more fascinating in their alien symmetry. "If he were human, I'd say no chance. But with these regenerative capabilities..." Cho shrugged. "I honestly don't know." Lieutenant Patel entered, his expression grim. "Council security forces are inbound. They're demanding your arrest, Dr. Vale, for violating non-interference treaties with the Kathvar Dominion." Serena had expected this, but still felt a cold knot form in her stomach. "How long?" 12 hours, maybe less. Director Reyes is attempting to negotiate, but..." He left the sentence unfinished. "I understand." Serena straightened her shoulders. "I'll prepare my defense." "There won't be a defense, Serena," Patel said quietly. "The Council has already issued judgment. The only question is whether they'll execute you here or transport you to Central." The stark reality of her situation settled over Serena. She had known the risks when she made her decision, but the swiftness of the Council's response suggested political forces beyond simple treaty violation. "Then I have nothing to lose by staying with my patient," she concluded. Patel looked as though he might argue further, but instead shook his head. "I'll be increasing security outside. Not to keep him in, to keep overzealous crew members out." After he left, Serena sank into a chair beside the Kathvar's bed. "Was it worth it?" she whispered, more to herself than the unconscious alien. "Trading my life for yours when your people would never do the same." To her shock, the Kathvar's eyes opened, fixing her with that same unnerving stare. "You are wrong, human," he rumbled, voice stronger than before. A life debt is sacred to the Kathvar. Serena leaned forward, scientists' curiosity overtaking surprise. You understand our language. All scouts learn the languages of potential prey. Kerox replied matter-of-factly. Though I begin to question our assessment of humans. Because I saved you? Because you had no reason to save me. The Kathvar attempted to sit up, but fell back with a growl of pain. In the jungle, you could have left me to die. No one would know. I would know, Serena said simply. Kerox studied her for a long moment before extending his intact hand. When Serena hesitantly placed her palm against his, the Kathvar's clawed fingers closed around hers with surprising gentleness. Honor-bound, he whispered, the words carrying ritualistic weight. Then his eyes closed again, exhaustion claiming him. Serena withdrew her hand slowly, unsure what had just transpired, but feeling as though something momentous had occurred. She didn't understand its significance until the next morning, when the station's long-range sensors detected a massive fleet dropping out of faster-than-light travel near Cathar's orbit. Kathvar dreadnoughts, Lieutenant Patel reported, face ashen as he burst into the medical bay. Hundreds of them, forming a blockade around the station. Have they made contact? Serena asked, rising from her vigil at Kerox's bedside. They're demanding to speak with the human who honors the blood debt. I assume that's you. Before Serena could respond, the medical bay's communication panel activated, displaying the imposing figure of a Kathvar adorned with ceremonial armor and scarlet markings. I am Commander Vrex of the Crimson Talon clan, the figure announced without preamble. You hold one of our scout commanders. Serena stepped forward, aware that her next words might determine the fate of everyone aboard Aurora 7. Commander Kerox is recovering from injuries sustained in a crash landing. We rendered assistance as we would for any sentient in distress. Vrex's head tilted slightly, a gesture Serena couldn't interpret. You claim the rights of the life-giver. Uncertain of the correct protocol, but unwilling to show hesitation. Serena nodded. I led the team that rescued him from the crash site. A low, rumbling sound emerged from the commander, something that might have been approval or threat. Then the honor debt is acknowledged. Prepare to receive an envoy. The communication ended abruptly, leaving Serena and Patel staring at each other in confusion. What just happened? Patel asked. I believe, came Kerox's voice from the bed, that you have just been claimed under Kathvar protection. They turned to find the scout commander, attempting once more to sit up, this time with greater success. His wounds, which should have taken weeks to heal, already showed signs of accelerated recovery. What does that mean exactly? Serena asked, approaching cautiously. It means, Kerox explained, that any threat to you is now a threat to all Kathvar. Commander Vrex comes to formalize the blood oath. Patel's comm unit chimed with an urgent alert. Council forces have arrived, he reported grimly. Admiral Korath's fleet is demanding we surrender Dr. Vale immediately, or face orbital bombardment. They would dare, Kerox growled, a sound so primal that both humans instinctively stepped back. With the Crimson Talon fleet present, the Council doesn't recognize Kathvar protection claims, Serena explained, especially not for humans who violate non-interference treaties. The Kathvar warrior's eyes narrowed. Then they will learn. Within the hour, Aurora 7 found itself at the center of a potential interstellar conflict. The Council fleet, led by Admiral Korath's flagship, maintained position on one side of the station. The Kathvar Armada, an imposing collection of vessels bristling with weapons, unlike anything in Council databases, held formation on the other. In the station's main docking bay, Serena awaited the arrival of Commander Vrex, alongside Director Reyes, and a nervous security detail. Lieutenant Patel stood at her side, having refused to leave her unprotected despite the diplomatic complications. You've certainly elevated frontier research to new heights, Dr. Vale, Reyes remarked dryly. We now have two forces capable of reducing us to atoms, arguing over your fate. I did what any of us would have done, Serena insisted. No, Patel countered quietly. You did what none of us would have dared. The docking bay doors parted to reveal a Keithvar shuttle, its design more organic than mechanical. As the vessel settled on the deck, its hull seemed to ripple, plates shifting to form an egress ramp. Commander Vrex emerged, flanked by warriors whose size and bearing made Karoks seem almost diminutive by comparison. The commander's scales gleamed with ritual oils, and intricate patterns adorned the natural armor of his chest and arms. Serena stepped forward as protocol dictated, offering the universal greeting gesture. Commander Vrex, Aurora 7 welcomes you. Vrex regarded her with ancient eyes, set in a face that evolution had crafted for intimidation. You are the one called Serena Vale? I am. Without warning, the massive Kothvar dropped to one knee before her, head bowed in a gesture no human had ever witnessed from their species. His warriors followed suit, creating a tableau so unexpected that several security officers raised their weapons in confusion. The debt is acknowledged, Vrex intoned formally. What was taken, you restored. What was broken, you mended. The honor of the Kothvar stands with Serena Vale until stars burn cold. Before Serena could formulate a response, the station's alert system blared once more. Council representatives requesting immediate docking clearance. The AI announced, Admiral Korath signals that refusal will be considered an act of war. Director Reyes looked to Serena, then to the kneeling Keithvar commander. We seem to be at an impasse. Vrex rose to his full height, towering over the assembled humans. There is no impasse. The human is under our protection. Council law is irrelevant. With respect, Commander, Serena interjected. I don't want protection at the cost of war. There must be a diplomatic solution. The Kothvar commander studied her with newfound interest. You would surrender yourself to preserve peace? If necessary, yes. A sound emerged from Vrex that might have been laughter, a harsh, rattling exhalation. Then you prove worthy of our protection, but surrender will not be necessary. He turned to Director Reyes. Grant the Council their docking privileges. Let them present their case before witnesses. What do you intend, Commander? Reyes asked warily. Justice, Vrex replied, by the oldest laws known to sentient beings. 2 hours later, the station's main conference chamber had been transformed into an impromptu tribunal. Admiral Korath, a Zelian whose translucent cranium pulsed with neural activity, led the council delegation. Vrex and his honor guard represented Keithvar interests. Between them stood Serena, simultaneously defendant and disputed property. The proceedings were being transmitted across council space, billions of viewers witnessing an unprecedented confrontation between galactic powers. The charges are clear, Admiral Korath began, his melodious voice belying the severity of his words. Dr. Serena Vale violated Section 87.3 of the Non-Interference Treaty by rendering unauthorized assistance to a Keithvar national. The treaty, ratified by all council members including Earth's government, specifically prohibits contact with Keithvar, except through authorized diplomatic channels. The punishment is equally clear, added Councillor Teprell, a Vosian diplomat whose species prided themselves on absolute adherence to law. Immediate termination of citizenship rights and exile to penal colony Gamma 6. Serena stepped forward. I request the right to address these charges. Admiral Korath waved a permissive appendage. Speak, though it will not change the Council's judgment. Drawing a deep breath, Serena faced the transmission drones, aware that her words would reach far beyond the station. 50 years ago, humanity joined the Galactic Council on the strength of a simple principle, that all sentient life deserves dignity and compassion. We didn't qualify that principle with exceptions for species we fear, or treaties that prioritize political convenience over moral duty. She gestured toward Karoks, who had insisted on attending despite medical advice. When we found Commander Karox injured and dying, we faced a choice between our stated values and our political obligations. I chose our values, and I would make that choice again. Noble sentiments, T'Prel acknowledged coldly, but irrelevant to treaty law. Is it? Serena challenged. The non-interference treaty exists to prevent unauthorized military or economic interaction with the Cathvar Dominion. Nowhere does it prohibit humanitarian assistance to individuals in life-threatening circumstances. A murmur passed through the assembled delegates as they considered this interpretation. Admiral Korath's neural pathways flashed with accelerated activity. The spirit of the law is clear, he insisted. Any contact risks diplomatic complications, as evidenced by our current situation. The current situation, Commander Vrex interrupted, his deep voice cutting through the debate, is not a complication but a clarification. All eyes turned to the Cathvar leader as he moved to stand beside Serena. For 1,000 cycles, the Cathvar have observed your council's species. We have witnessed your treaties built on fear, your diplomacy steeped in deception. We remained apart, not because we feared you, but because we saw nothing worthy of our respect. He placed a massive clawed hand on Serena's shoulder, a gesture that caused several council representatives to flinch. This human, acting alone, showed more courage and honor than your entire council. She risked her life to save an enemy when abandonment would have been safer and politically expedient. With a ceremonial flourish, Vrex unsheathed a ceremonial blade from his armor and knelt once more before Serena, offering the weapon, hilt first. By the ancient laws that predate your council, I claim Serena Vale as Cathvar protected. Any who threaten her, threaten all Cathvar clans united. The chamber erupted in chaos as delegates processed the implications. Admiral Korath's neural pathways flashed chaotically before he raised all 4 arms for silence. This is unprecedented, he declared. Council law does not recognize cross-species protection claims. Then, perhaps, Director Reyes suggested, stepping forward for the first time. Council law should evolve. We face a unique opportunity to establish new diplomatic channels with the Cathvar Dominion. Channels opened not through force or fear, but through a single act of compassion. The debate continued for hours, transmitted live across thousands of worlds. Arguments about precedent and protocol gave way to deeper questions about the future of interspecies relations. Throughout, Serena remained at the center, a reluctant symbol for both human compassion and Cathvar honor. Eventually, a compromise emerged. The Council would classify the incident as a diplomatic anomaly rather than a treaty violation. Serena would retain her position at Aurora 7, but would also serve as an unofficial liaison between humanity and the Cathvar. Commander Vrex, in turn, agreed to establish limited diplomatic contact with the Council through Serena. As the delegates dispersed and the transmission drones powered down, Serena found herself alone with Commander Vrex in a quiet corner of the conference chamber. "I don't understand," she admitted. "Why go to such lengths for one human?" The Cathvar commander's expression softened, revealing something almost like amusement. "You still think this was about you alone? Wasn't it the protection claim, the Armada? The Armada was necessary to demonstrate our commitment, but the principle extends beyond your individual life." Vrex gestured toward the viewport, where stars shimmered against the void. "For centuries, we have watched younger species repeat the same patterns: conquest, subjugation, fear. We began to believe that predation was the only true constant in the galaxy. And now we have witnessed something new, something worth preserving." The commander straightened to his full height. The Cathvar have long been regarded as apex predators, but few understand what that truly means. The apex does not merely kill, it maintains balance. Serena considered this. And my actions somehow affect this balance? They have already changed it. Word spreads among the clans. Questions are being asked that have not been voiced in generations. Before Serena could press further, Lieutenant Patel approached, eyeing the Kathvar commander warily. "The council ships are departing," he reported, "and Director Reyes would like to speak with you when you're available." Vrex acknowledged the lieutenant with a formal gesture. "We too must return to our territories. But know this, Serena Vale, you will never again journey unprotected. Though you may not see them, the eyes of the Kathvar will watch over you." With that cryptic promise, the commander departed, leaving Serena to contemplate the unexpected consequences of a single act of compassion. In the weeks that followed, Aurora 7 gradually returned to normal operations. The station's crew, initially wary of Serena's new status, eventually accepted the subtle changes it brought, particularly when reports came in of Kathvar vessels assisting human ships in distress along contested trade routes. Dr. Cho, who had faced no censure for her role in Korox's treatment, approached Serena in the research lab one evening. "I've been offered a position with the Council's Xenobiology division," she announced. "Apparently, our work with Korox has generated significant interest in Kathvar physiology." Serena looked up from her specimen analysis, genuinely pleased. "Myra, that's wonderful. The Council needs more physicians with your adaptability." "I wouldn't have this opportunity if you hadn't forced me into that shuttle," Cho admitted, with a wry smile. "At the time, I thought you were committing suicide by apex predator." "The thought did cross my mind," Serena confessed. "But I couldn't leave him to die." "That's what makes you special, Serena. That stubborn compassion." Cho hesitated before adding, "Lieutenant Patel thinks so too. You know, though he'd never admit it." Serena felt a warmth in her cheeks that had nothing to do with the lab's temperature. "Aaron has made his position on prodding monsters quite clear." "And yet, he volunteered to head your security detail for the Cathar expedition next month." Before Serena could respond to this revelation, her communication panel chimed with an incoming message, origin marked simply as Kathvar Space. Cho tactfully excused herself as Serena activated the secure channel. The screen illuminated with the now familiar features of Korox, fully recovered, and apparently aboard a Kathvar vessel. "Scout Commander," Serena greeted him warmly. "You look well." "The skills of human healers are not without merit," he acknowledged, mandibles clicking in what she had learned was amusement. "I contact you with news that may interest your scientists." "I'm listening." "Our border patrols report changes in Xelian ship movements. They withdraw from territories previously contested, establishing new transit corridors that avoid Kathvar space entirely." Serena considered the implications. "They fear confrontation after what happened at Aurora 7. Perhaps. Or perhaps they recognize a new balance forming." Korox's expression grew serious. "But that is not my primary purpose in contacting you. Commander Vrex wishes me to convey that honor guards have been dispatched to all human outposts near our territories." "Honor guards?" Serena repeated, uncertain of the term's meaning in this context. "Warriors sworn to protect human interests, though they will remain unseen unless needed." The magnitude of this commitment struck Serena speechless. The Kathvar were dedicating significant resources, not just to her protection, but to all humans in the region. "That's extraordinary," she finally managed. "Please convey my gratitude to Commander Vrex." Korox inclined his head. "It is done according to our ways. The debt acknowledged, the protection extended." He paused before adding, "There is one more matter. A personal message from the commander." The screen shifted to display Kathvar script, which Serena's translation software rendered as, "Should you call, we come." After the communication ended, Serena sat in contemplative silence, turning the events of recent weeks over in her mind. What had begun as a simple rescue had somehow altered the relationship between humanity and the most feared species in known space. Later that evening, she found Lieutenant Patel, Arun, on the observation deck, gazing at Cathar Prime below. "I hear you volunteered for expedition security," she said, by way of greeting. He turned, embarrassment briefly crossing his features. "Someone has to make sure you don't adopt any more apex predators." "Just doing my job as a xenobiologist," she countered lightly. "Speaking of which, have you heard about the Cathvar honor guards?" Director Reyes informed me. "Apparently, we're now receiving intelligence from Cathvar sources about threat movements near human colonies." His expression grew serious. "Serena, do you realize what you've accomplished? Species that have been in Cold War for centuries are suddenly sharing security information." She shook her head. "I didn't accomplish anything special. I just couldn't leave him to die. And that simple choice may have changed the course of galactic politics." Aaron moved closer, his professional reserve softening. "Not bad for a scientist who just wanted to catalog jungle predators." "Speaking of which," Serena said, pulling up research notes on her tablet, "I've identified 3 new species in the Western Quadrant that exhibit remarkable symbiotic behaviors. If we adjust our expedition timeline—" As they discussed the upcoming mission, the station continued its silent orbit around Cathar Prime. Below, in the planet's savage jungles, life and death played out in their eternal dance. Above, in the vast emptiness of space, something new had begun, a tentative bridge between predator and prey, built on the foundation of a single act of compassion. Months passed, and Aurora 7 added a new research division dedicated to interspecies honor dynamics, with Serena as its lead scientist. Her work took her across council space, documenting subtle shifts in Cathvar behavior. Once violent border skirmishes resolved through ritual dialogue. Trade routes previously closed, now cautiously open to human vessels. Through it all, she remained acutely aware of the unseen guardians that Commander Vrex had promised. Occasionally, a crew member would report glimpsing a Cathvar ship at the edge of sensor range, appearing briefly before vanishing again into the cosmic depths. More tellingly, incidents of piracy and aggression against human outposts near Cathvar space dropped to 0. Lieutenant Patel, now simply Aaron in private conversations, accompanied Serena on most expeditions. His initial skepticism gradually transforming into cautious optimism. They made an effective team, her boundless curiosity balanced by his pragmatic security assessments. On the anniversary of Korox's rescue, Serena received another cryptic message in Cathvar script. This one, translated simply, "The hunt continues." She puzzled over its meaning until Aaron, reviewing security footage from a remote mining colony, noticed something remarkable: a team of Cathvar warriors neutralizing a Zelian sabotage unit before colonial security even detected the threat. "They're hunting for threats to humans," he realized, "not hunting humans themselves." "The apex maintaining balance," Serena murmured, recalling Commander Vrex's words. As news of these interventions spread, other council species began approaching humanity with renewed interest in alliance and trade. The Vosians, ever practical, were the first to formally acknowledge the value of having a species under Cathvar protection as a diplomatic partner. For Serena, personally, the consequences of that fateful rescue continued to unfold in unexpected ways. Her research gained prominence. Her methodologies became standard protocol for first contact scenarios, and her name became synonymous with a new approach to interspecies relations. Yet, in quiet moments, gazing at the stars from Aurora 7's observation deck, she often wondered about the true nature of the bond she had inadvertently forged. Was it merely honor, as the Cathvar understood it? Or had her action touched something deeper in a species long dismissed as mere predators? The answer came unexpectedly during a routine expedition to Cathar's surface. Serena and Aaron, now leading a small research team, were documenting changes in the jungle ecosystem when their shuttle suffered catastrophic engine failure. As the craft plummeted toward the canopy, emergency systems failed, one by one. In those desperate moments, with impact imminent, Serena found herself whispering, "Should you call, we come." Seconds before collision, a Keithvar vessel appeared alongside, extending energy fields that enveloped the falling shuttle. Both craft descended slowly to the jungle floor, the human vessel cradled within the protective embrace of technology far beyond Council capabilities. As Serena and her team emerged shakily from their shuttle, they found themselves surrounded by Keithvar warriors, led by a familiar figure, Karox, bearing the markings of a full commander now. "You called," he stated simply. "We came." "How did you know?" Serena asked, still trembling from their near-death experience. Karox gestured to a small pendant she wore, a gift from Commander Vrex on her last diplomatic visit to Cathvar space. "The honor token carries your life signature. All Cathvar vessels are attuned to its distress signal." "You've been watching over us all this time," Aaron realized, professional wariness momentarily forgotten in gratitude. "As is right," Karox affirmed. "The debt acknowledged, the protection extended." Later, after repairs to their shuttle had been completed with Keithvar assistance, Serena found a moment alone with the commander. "I never understood why my action warranted such commitment from your people," she admitted. "Surely it wasn't the first time someone showed compassion in this galaxy." Karox considered her words carefully. "You must understand what the Cathvar were before. For millennia, we evolved as perfect predators, feared by all, respected by none. We came to believe that was our only possible role in the cosmic order. And now we have glimpsed another path. Through your action, saving an enemy when advantage dictated abandonment, you showed us that even apex predators can choose compassion without sacrificing strength." His massive form seemed to soften as he added, "You did not merely save a life, Serena Vale. You offered redemption to an entire species." The implications of his words stayed with Serena long after they returned to Aurora 7. The Cathvar weren't simply honoring a debt. They were exploring a new evolutionary direction, one where their predatory nature coexisted with concepts previously alien to them: mercy, protection of the vulnerable, selective restraint. As the station's research continued, and diplomatic channels between humanity and the Cathvar formalized, Serena never forgot the fundamental truth that had emerged from her impulsive rescue decision. True strength lay not in the capacity to destroy, but in the courage to protect. Aurora 7 continued its orbit around Cathar Prime, a small outpost of science and discovery at the edge of known space. And somewhere, in the vast darkness beyond, Cathvar vessels maintained their silent vigil, apex predators, transformed by a single act of compassion into guardians of the very species they once might have hunted. The galaxy watched and wondered what other transformations might follow as the whisper to a dying predator continued to echo across the stars.